In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to use Python for web scraping. More precisely, we're going to get all the words from A to Z from an online dictionary using requests HTML and Beautifulsoup. And for each letter, we'll create a TXT file with all the words starting with it. Okay, so as you can see, I've got my dictionary. I'm just using Merriam-Webster because I found that this is easier to get all the words from. So first of all, you need to install a module using pip from the command line. I'm just writing here the commands you need to use. Pip install requests HTML, and then this should actually install everything you need, but if it doesn't install Beautifulsoup, just install it manually, BS4. Then of course we need to import something, so request HTML import HTML session. Okay, I'm just using requests HTML instead of just requests because basically this uses requests under the hood and it's more complete in my opinion, but you can use requests as well. Okay, and then I'm going to use Beautifulsoup, so from BS4 import Beautifulsoup, like that. Okay, requests HTML should be enough even to parse the HTML, but I'm just going to stick to Beautifulsoup for this video. Okay, so everything that we need. So let's actually go to the website and see what we actually have. Okay, so here we are inside the A. So if you click on that, you can see up here that you've got A, and then here we've got groups of words. So this is the first group, the second group, etc. From this, to this, etc. So if you click on that, up here we can see 1. Okay, so this is the first group, and then we can go to the 2. You've got the second group, and you've got 2 here. 72 pages. Okay, so the B is the same, the C is the same, etc., etc. Okay, as you can see, the C has got 109 pages. So we need a way to actually get all the words from all the pages. So let's actually start by having a list of letters. Okay, and I'm just going to copy and paste to save time. Okay, then we can look through the letters. So for letter in letters, then I'm gonna have a variable with the page number, which is first because we need to start from here. So A, from this one, we need to start. Okay, then list words, an empty list, and then I'm going to use a while true loop. I'm using a while true loop because we want to loop through all the pages. So the 72 pages for the letter A, the 109 pages for the letter C. Okay, and as they are all different, so we don't have the same number here, we're going to break out of it when we reach the last page, and I'll show you how to actually know when we get to the last page without knowing the number. Okay, but first let's actually create a variable for the URL, which we're going to copy from here. So, okay, instead of the A, of course, we need to use letter because this has to change. And then here, instead of the 1, the page number. Okay, so each iteration of the while true loop, we get a new page number, and each iteration of the for loop, we get a new letter. Okay, then we need to create this session using the HTML session, and then we need to get the response session dot get. We're using the URL above. Okay, and then here you can actually print the response dot status code like that. I'm not actually going to use that, but you should maybe check if the status code is actually 200 or stuff like that, but I'm not gonna do that. But you now know that there's this option, and then I'm gonna print a simple parsing, and then you can get the current URL. Do that. So response.html is actually an HTML object that has the URL attribute with the URL of the current session. And then to actually get the HTML code, you need to access the HTML attribute of that object. Okay, so you need to do something like response.html.html. Okay, well, of course, we don't need that here, but we need it here. So I'm going to create a soup with Beautifulsoup. Then here, I'm going to use response.html.html. So I'm going to create a Beautifulsoup object from the actual HTML of the website that we got. And then I'm going to use the HTML parser. Okay. So now we've got everything ready, but we need to go back to the browser and work out what selector we actually need. Okay, so let's go here, let's open the developer tools, okay, the inspector, and let's actually go up here, pick, and let's go to the first one. Okay, as you can see, we've got a span. So all of those are span elements, okay, but we need to find the parent. So let's go up, 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 up. As you can see, this is the parent. This is the table containing all the words, okay? So we can actually target all the span elements using this div and then this span element, okay? And we can do that using soup select, okay, which returns a list of all the elements that match this specific selector. Select, okay? Then I'm going to get this selector from here. So div with this class and then the span. So we're gonna get all the span elements that are children of a div with this class. Okay, so this actually returns a list of all those elements. So really easy. And then we can do something like forward in words. Okay, really important word here is not actually the word itself, but is the span element, which includes the span tag, okay, around the word. So to get the actual word, we need to access the content, the span content, and we need to use the contents attribute. But be careful because this attribute, the attribute contents, is a list. So let's see what I mean. If I were to do something like contents, something like that, this would return a list, something like this, okay, a list, and we need to access this. So this is the first element, so 0, okay, and this will give us the actual word, okay, but then we want to actually add this word to the list words up here, okay, so list words dot append and something like this. Now, as I said before, we've got all the elements containing the word, but we need a way to actually understand if we are on the last page or not. Okay, so we need to go back to the website. So we need to find something that changes on the last page. And one thing that I've noticed is that these two little arrows here now are enabled. Okay, but if we go to the last page, these are disabled. So we can actually use those to know if we are on the last page or not, because the bad thing about this website is that if you go up here and you try to access a really big number, you still get the last page. You can't even check if you get an error or not. So in this case, this is what I thought of, okay, these little arrows. And if we open the developer tools again, you can see that now they've got a class here, disabled. Okay, but if we go to the 71st page, these are not disabled anymore. We've just got the class next. If we've got an element with the class next and the class disabled, it means that we are on the last page. If not, we still have pages left. Okay, so let's see what we can do in our code. So now we've got everything in our list. Okay, so we can do something like next disabled soup.select as we did above, and then we're going to use the selector class next and class disabled, something like that. Okay, if select finds elements with this selector, it returns a list containing those elements here. If not, it returns an empty list. Okay, so we can actually do something like if next disabled, then we can print the list of words. And then I show you how to actually save all the words to a file. So stick until the end. And we can also break out of this loop, out of the while true loop, and you get up here and you actually get the new letter, which is B, and you do the same thing again. If we don't have the next disabled, we need to add a number to the page because we want to go to the other page, okay? Like that. So you go to 2, you go here, A2, A3, A4, etc., etc. Okay, so let's actually see how this works. This we're scraping dictionary. Okay, let's see if this works. A2, 3. I'm gonna speed it up. Okay, just a few left. Let's see what we get. As you can see, it's carrying on with the B, but here we have the whole list of words starting with A. Let's actually clear that. Okay, so Now that this is working, we can actually, instead of printing it, we can add them to a file. What I thought is that I want to add all the words starting with A to a file called a.txt, then b.txt, etc, etc. But before we do that, if you've made it this far in the video, I guess you're finding this really interesting. So let me know you're still here watching in the comments down below. So here I'm going to do something like with open, like that. Then I'm going to use the letter as the name of the text file, .txt. Writing mode as text file. Okay, then I'm going to do something like for word in list words text file dot write. I'll do something like word plus, really important, line feed, because I want just one letter per line. Okay, I don't want all of the letters one next to the other. So let's actually save that. So I'm going to open this. So here we should see the a.txt file. So as before, I'm going to speed it up. Nearly there. And look here, because here we should see a.txt really soon. Okay, as you can see, a.txt. This is carrying on with the B, but if we open the text file, as you can see up here, we've got words in the text file, and we've got like quite a few of them, 21,000. Quite interesting. Let's actually stop this. Okay, and now I'm sure that after this you want to learn something more about Python, so go and watch the video you see on the screen, and I'll see you there.